Hey everybody, Eric with MountainModernLife.com. I hope you guys are doing great today. And if you're considering adding a sliding barn door into your RV, we really hope this video will be helpful for you. So to be honest, we actually created this project a few years ago and we didn't get a ton of great footage when we did it. So recently we actually pulled down the door. We wanted to redo it and add some sealer to it. So now's the perfect opportunity to show you how we went about the DIY process of creating our sliding barn door. Now, the problem was is that when we first started, we were really wanting to use sliding barn door hardware. But the problem was everything we were finding was either super heavy or super expensive. And to be honest, when we were in that renovation phase, we were really concerned about weight and making sure we didn't overweigh the RV. So that's how come we took this DIY approach. Now, as we go through here, I did mention we didn't get great footage, so I am going to be using pictures and words to show you how we created the door, but then we'll get into some video footage of how we're going to install it so that it'll be easier for you to do if you want to. Now, the thing is recently we actually found some sliding barn door hardware that's going to work perfect, so if you want to check back next week, we're going to show how we install that and how that works. And the main purpose here is that if you guys are looking to tackle this project, you'll be able to use both videos to see which option's best for you moving forward. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the supplies you'll need. For the supplies you'll need, we're going to start off with the sliding barn door hardware, and that includes 2 1/2-inch copper elbows, a 1/2-inch copper pipe cut to size, a pipe cutter, 2 1/2-inch flanges, 2 large eye hooks. I believe we used 3/4 inch, 2 rigid casters, meaning that they don't swivel in all directions, a drill and wood screws, epoxy, which is optional, copper cleaner plus a clear coat spray sealer, which is also optional. So now we're going to dive into the supplies we use to create our bathroom door, but we thought it was important to note here that if you have a hollow door already there or doors already in your RV that you're not using, you could always repurpose them to create a sliding door in your RV. Just something to keep in mind. Anyway, on to the supplies for our door, which includes cedar boards. We use 12 8-foot boards to create this door, and we chose the cedar because it's relatively inexpensive and lightweight, but really you can use any type of wood you'd like. You'll need a door handle for the outside of the door and a flush mounted handle for the inside, and 4 to 8 carriage strap hinges. Now these are purely decorative and we only had 4 on hand, so we only used the carriage strap hinges on the hallway side of the door. Next you'll need a hammer and nails in order to add the carriage strap hinges. After that you'll need a measuring tape, a pencil and square, spray paint, wood filler, wood glue, 1/4 inch by 3 inch poplar wood trim. This is also decorative. A drill and wood screws, a saw, a nail gun and nails, sander and sandpaper. And then some of the supplies not shown include a Craig jig, which if you find yourself doing a lot of wood projects, I highly recommend you look into the Craig jig. It has really made mine and Katie's life a lot easier whenever we're trying to attach pieces of wood to one another. We absolutely love it. 2 1x2 pine boards. Now we use this as the accent trim on either side of the door. Next is stain, sealer, and brushes. And then a couple optional items also not shown are the cabin lock and the coat hooks. All right, in order to create our door, we ended up using 12 pieces of cedar fence board. Now, with cedar fence board, one side is generally a little bit fuzzier than the other, and it's really difficult to sand down. So what we actually did is we created 2 separate doors by using our Craig jig. And as you can see here in the picture, there's definitely holes that attach each individual piece. So we created the main section of the door by horizontally attaching the boards together, and then we used 2 smaller pieces on the top and bottom as vertical attachments. And once we had both doors completely Craig jigged together, we actually sandwiched them together just like a sandwich, attached them, in turn securing them and making one solid door. Now, after that, we moved on to getting it sanded down. And once we got the outside sanded down and ready to go, we added 2 coats of stain, and then we added 2 coats of sealer in order to protect it. And then after that, it was time to spray paint and seal the decorative trim pieces. And then it was time to add the eye hooks to the top of the door. Now, after that, it was on to the flush mounted door handle. And as you can see here, it's extremely easy to install, and we didn't have to bore out anything into the door. Now, we love the look of black steel on wood, but we were trying to conserve weight, so we used wood that we painted black, including the two 1x2 side trim pieces and the poplar front trim and back trim. You may notice here that the 1x2 trim actually sticks up on one side and is flush with the other. Well, we did that on purpose to create a little bit more privacy on the bathroom side versus the front side, but you may not have to do this if you're able to get closer to your wall. Next, it's time for the coat hooks, which these are optional. We just like it because it gives us an extra place to hang a couple things. And we'll follow that up with the second door handle. And next is getting the rigid casters attached. Now you can see here that the wheels can only roll back and forth in one direction, and that's what we mean by rigid. And now, last but not least, is time to get the cabin lock latch attached. Now that the door is all wrapped up, we're going to go ahead and get it inside and get it installed. So here we are in the hallway. We've got our door leaned up against the side, and we're going to go ahead and be installing the hardware so that our hallway door will actually block off the bathroom when we're in there. So the first step is going to be to grab our floor flange and our copper elbow. Generally, me and Katie have done a ton of copper projects. We absolutely love it. And what you'll generally do if you're using a flange connecting to copper is you'll use an adapter that's threaded on this end. But with this being the door for our bathroom, we wanted it to be as close to the wall as possible so that, you couldn't see in from the sides when someone's in there. So we elected to skip that step, and we actually took our elbow and we just threaded it inside to our flange. Now the thing is copper is a really soft metal, so when we screwed it in here, the threads on the inside of our flange actually kind of dug in a little bit to the elbow. Now, if you're worried about it being secure, you can always add a little bit of epoxy around the outside of the elbow before you put it into the flange, and that should add some security. But to be honest with you, me and Katie have had it just like this for the last few years, and we haven't had any problems with the door coming off or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and go this route. So now that we have our elbow into our flange, we're going to go ahead and install our right side first. So in order to do that, we're going to need to grab our screws and our drill. All right, so we're going to be installing our flange and elbow in the same place we had it before. Now, we completely redid these walls, so I know that there's studs behind where we're putting the flange. So if you don't know what's behind your wall, you're probably going to want to use anchors just to add extra security. And at the same time, you'll need to figure out the spacing based on how big your door is, how big the opening is, and the size of the copper pipe you're going to be using that the door is going to be sliding along. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and screw this in. And there it is. All right, so now that the flange and the elbow's in place, it's time to grab our copper pipe. Now the thing is depending on the size of your opening and the size of your door, that's going to help to determine the size of your copper pipe. So that's going to be completely dependent on your situation. But as you can see here, looking at ours has developed quite the patina. Now, if you want to keep it looking new, what you can do is when you first get your copper pipe cut down to size, you can clean it up and then seal it, and then that should keep it looking fresh. We actually don't mind the patina. But anyway, so here we are with our copper pipe, and now we're going to go ahead and get it in place before we install the other flange. All right, so now that we have the pipe into the elbow on the right and threaded through the door, it's time to grab our other flange and our other elbow. And now we'll follow the same process and screw this into place over here. Now, the reason we're doing it this way is because, one, it's a lot easier to get your pipe into position by doing it this way. But at the same time, by taking this approach, we're able to feed the copper pipe as far into that elbow as we can. And then once we install this side, we're able to push the pipe as far into this elbow as we can. That way, when we're going down the road, there's no possibility for the copper pipe to bounce out or fall out of the elbows and then us lose the door. But anyway, let's go ahead and get the flange installed on the wall. All right, so our door's in place. Everything's looking pretty good. We did have a little issue where our black trim piece here was actually hitting our molding on the side. So we actually loosened up the flange and we unscrewed the elbow a little bit because we might have just screwed it in a little too tight. And when we did that, now we don't hit the molding anymore. So the only thing really left to do is grease up our pipe here so it's not quite as noisy as it slides back and forth. But one thing to note real quick on our door is that we don't have any sort of lock or anything like that. It's just me and Katie in here, so when the door shuts, someone's in the bathroom. But I did want to show you guys something really cool that was really important, and that's how we secure it as we're driving down the road. So if you come down this direction. All right, so when we were showing you how we built the door, we showed you attaching this side of our latch. But the main point of this is that when we drive down the road, we actually hook that into place. And we have had zero problems with any movement or noise or the door falling or anything like that. It just helps secure it right here on the side. Since we just got done showing you the hook from the bathroom, we figured we'd touch on our little door handle here a little bit. Now you saw it a little earlier when we were talking about installing it on the door, but one of the crazy things is that for a long time Katie and I were searching for the perfect door handle that would fit on here but also would be able to slide in past the door or past the wall. Now we found a lot of options out there, but with most of them you'd have to bore into the wood in order to put it in place, and we didn't know if we really wanted to go through all that. So then Katie came across this one, which was extremely flat and you just screwed it into place. But one of our main concerns there was this inner piece here is extremely shallow and we didn't know how easy it would be to actually use the handle. But since we've got it here and put it in place, it's just been super easy to go back and forth. So we will link to this in the description box over on our Amazon affiliate site. So feel free to check that out if you're looking for something like that that's a little easier than boring it out. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into what we think of the door. All right, so here we are. Our door's in place. It's on the hardware. It's working like a charm. So with this project overall, we definitely like it a lot. It was super affordable, and especially back when we created it, because a lot of the sliding barn door hardware out there was either super heavy or super expensive. And on top of that, we've done a ton of pipe projects over the years, so we had pretty much everything on hand, just a couple items we needed to pick up. And then it's super lightweight, especially in an RV. That's really important with a lot of projects that you go into, is kind of monitoring your overall weight throughout your rig. And then at the same time, it's super easy. I mean, really, it's 8 screws into the wall and then attaching your hooks and your wheels and your pipe, and you're ready to go. So super easy. Now, with all that said, there are some downfalls to it. Number one is that sometimes it can get noisy. Now, what's kind of frustrating right now is that in this video right now, this is actually a lot noisier than it's been before we took it down to show you guys how to do this. It wasn't this noisy. So I don't know why yet. I'll probably figure it out in the upcoming days, but anyway, we'll deal with that later. But another problem is that when you have it closed like this in the hallway, if someone's working out in the living room or something like that and the RV gets to shaking, you can kind of hear it bouncing back and forth, and that can be frustrating. Now, another thing to note here too, especially without us having our rug down in here, is that without the rug, the door can sometimes kind of lean in and out. So over the years, Katie and I had become so accustomed to it that, you know, as we're shutting it, sometimes we'll just adjust it with our foot to make sure it's lined up straight. But in order to combat that, you can use a floor guide, which will actually ride alongside the door and keep it right where you want it. But for us, when we have the rug down, it actually tends to keep the door more in place to where it's sliding back and forth. So those are some of the downfalls that we have with it. But we're not really too concerned about that now, because next week we're going to be going ahead and attaching our sliding barn door hardware that we had found. So we're really excited to see how that works, and maybe if that eliminates some of the problems we have here, though over the years we've gotten pretty much used to it. Now, as far as affordability goes, back in the day, like I mentioned, it was really affordable. But at this stage of the game, with so many different options out there on Amazon, as far as the hardware kits that come with everything you need, most of those you can get for around probably $25 to $50, somewhere in that range. And with this, if you were to buy the copper pipe, the elbows, the flanges, the eye hooks, and the wheels, you're probably looking at about the same price range. So it's really up to you. If you really like this look and this style, you can go ahead and give it a try. But you know, up to you. We're going to see next week how the barn door sliding kit works, and we'll let you know then if we like this DIY version or the one we buy from Amazon better. But anyway, that about wraps it up for today. I hope this video was helpful, and if you guys are looking to create something like this, I hope it gave you some tips or pointers. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let us know. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.